Recruiting you wasn't my idea. I have a team of good men here, but they're few in number. They haven't the time or resources to concern themselves with your safety. Whether you need protection or not is beside the point. Men are naturally inclined to offer it. So it's best for you to avoid situations that would lead to them being distracted.
And I was working at St Francis Hospital in Haywards Heath, and I had a boyfriend who was a medical student at Guy's Hospital in London, and I wanted to be in London, a job in London, so that we could be nearer to each other. So I saw an advert in the paper just saying Metropolitan Police looking for female police officers, and this was about 1951. So one day when I was in London, I called at Scotland Yard and asked if I could join the police. They said, well, this isn't where you come to join the police, but would you like us to show you around while you're here? I suppose they had nothing to do much. So they showed me all around Scotland Yard, gave me the address where I had to apply, and I just went on from there. I applied to join the police, and I went up for interview and everything in Soho. I was 5'4.5", and they said you'd be ideally suited, but we have plenty of choice and we'd rather have bigger girls in the city. But why don't you go and join your local force? So I went into Burgess Hill Police Station. I happened to be there, and that was it. Then I joined what was then East Sussex Police. They wanted women to be in a separate policewomen's department then. They were separate from the men. We didn't get equal pay, but we weren't expected to do an equal job to them. We weren't expected to have go on the beat or work at night, or anything like that. It was an entirely separate thing, and we were there mainly to deal with walking around the streets, telling people directions and things, and looking after women and children, interviewing people for sex crimes, taking statements for that sort of thing, doing a certain amount of court duty, particularly the juvenile court, taking women prisoners to Holloway, juveniles to juvenile homes, and a certain amount of going and helping the CID if they wanted to have a couple doing that sort of work, observation, that sort of thing. It seemed quite normal at the time because it was essentially a male job. There wasn't really a promotion structure, not in East Sussex. And I think the men rather enjoyed having 2 or 3 women in the station. We had a certain amount of teasing, which was all done in the nicest possible way, really. There was one occasion, because we weren't allowed to be without our jackets, but we had a particularly hot summer, and we were told we could finally take our jackets off and roll up our sleeves for the first time ever. And I can remember walking towards the police station, and a policeman coming towards me said, "That's a lovely view," bouncing away at the front. And that would now be an offensive remark, but it wasn't then at all. And I just laughed. When we had to watch, I had to go with another man to watch a property in Cambridge Road in Hove because we thought it was being used as a brothel. And we went to the house opposite and asked if we could sit in their front room in more comfort on these 2 chairs, and we sat and made notes of people coming and going at this property. And at the end of the evening, we stood up to go, and this policeman flung his arms around me and gave me a great big kiss. In silence, he never said a word, I never said a word, and that was that. And sometimes we'd have to go out on observation in a car, watching some property or other, or person, with a male policeman, and almost the first thing they would do is attempt to stick their hand up your skirt, and you'd always say, "Get off, you've got a wife," or "I don't fancy you," or something, and they would just laugh and say, "Well, you can't blame me for trying." That was almost for everybody. That sort of thing happened. But nobody would have thought of complaining because there really wasn't anything to complain about. Nothing had happened.
Well, if the men need help with women or children, you're to take that off their hands. Never forget that your sole responsibility is to support the men so that they can get on with the job of real policing.